distinguished guests, delegates to the conference, ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor to be addressing you this afternoon. I had two purposes here today. One was to make my presentation. The other was to ask your president a question, but I was not able to ask him the question. I heard that he is secretly trying to build a wall between Mexico and the United States to stop all the Americans who are fleeing from the United States.
Correct.
First, I wish to thank CNET for inviting me to speak today. Second, I wish to congratulate this beautiful destination that is Mexico for being named the best international destination for family travel in the 2017 Travel Awards earlier this year. You should give yourselves a big hand. Third, I wish to commend the government of Mexico for its vision in taking the bold step of building a new $9 billion Benito Juarez International Airport, which when completed will have the capacity to serve 120 million passengers each year. I know how important that is. I was the CEO for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport that has 100 million passengers a year. And the vision that one day that Mexico City could have such an airport is quite ambitious, and so I applaud you for that. Now, your airport is the second busiest in the world, in Latin America, behind Sao Paulo in Brazil. I really do believe that once this airport is completed, you will have the opportunity and will take your place for Mexico City's airport being the busiest in the world. And I'm pleased also that this month, I believe Cancun will have the opening of Terminal 4, again planning for the major growth of passenger travel and tourist travel here in Mexico. Now to my topic. My topic is, who is tomorrow's tourist? Who is tomorrow's traveler? It's a big question that is asked by many people, and you might be wondering, what is an airport guy? Why is he asking that question? What would he know about this subject? Well, in the United States, the US government requires that every airport have a 20-year master plan. That master plan is not only to determine in advance what type of facilities you need, but we pay a great deal of money to many consultants to determine who our future passengers will be, so that we can have the right food and beverage locations, because tastes change in terms of what people eat, what you will buy in the retail stores. Have you noticed these days that if you go to a retail store in an airport, it used to be where you could find a briefcase for male and a briefcase for female. But now that females have become the dominant majority for traveling, we now sell what we call unisex briefcases. The same suitcase, a briefcase, can be used by a man and a woman. So we at airports have to study all of these various tastes based upon the traveler's gender, based upon the traveler's age. We, as major airports, have to also plan for these things. So, who are the travelers of tomorrow? They are decidedly millennials. Millennials will make up the majority of travelers for the next 5, 10, 15 years. The majority of whom will also be women. And we will continue to see a strong growth in Chinese travelers worldwide. So first, millennials. who are these strange people we call millennials? They are the majority of travelers today. And like I said, there's disagreement about what their ages are. But Newsweek magazine indicated to us that millennials are born between 1977 and 1994, which would make them today between the ages of 23 and 40. And if you look at this room today, I think 90% of you are millennials. One might say that they're the people who are just newly matured or are maturing. They have particular characteristics, and I'm sure you'll identify with some of them since many of you are millennials. They grew up in a high-tech environment surrounded by computers and the internet. As a result, they are frequently online, socially networking through the internet. Also, because millennials grew up being inundated by advertising, they tend to be skeptical about marketing promotion. In the United States, with 20% of millennials having at least one immigrant parent, millennials are the most ethnically diverse generation ever in the United States. So they tend to be more tolerant, regardless of what you're seeing on television today. The United States is actually more tolerant today of different races and cultures. These millennials, however, they know what they want, they know how they want it, and they're confident to the point of sometimes feeling that they're entitled to have whatever they want. And they're not shy about telling you what it is they want. The millennial generation tends to be more open-minded in their political and religious views. According to a Pew Research, 50% of millennials have no political affiliation. They go out to the internet, they listen to what's going on the internet, they read what's going on, and that's how they vote. But they're really not Republicans or Democrats in the United States. 29% of millennials have no religious association. They have the highest number of Facebook friends. They average about 250 Facebook friends, and 55% of millennials have posted a selfie or more to social media sites versus only 20% of us old folks like me. And millennials send an average of 50 text messages every day. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. They're all sitting right in the middle here. The question is, how are all these traits of the millennial generation relevant? How are they relevant for travel and tourism in Mexico? We have already seen many airports and hotels adapting to free internet, computer and cell phone chargers throughout the airports now, on the nightstands of airport hotels, and every airline and hotel now have sophisticated websites for clients to book their reservations online. But there are other behaviors and expectations that are key trends among millennials that are important to the Mexican tourism industry. The first is that millennials are not content to having a mundane vacation. They don't want to just lay on the beach. According to Art of Travel, adventure travel can have three elements or characteristics. Millennials want what we call adventure travel. Why? Because it connects them to nature. 2, it provides physical activity. And 3, what the minister spoke about this morning, is that it provides interaction with culture, and Mexico has a vast amount of culture. Art of Travel goes on to describe two types of adventures. Soft adventure, which millennials like, that include hiking, rafting, snorkeling, and kayaking, and hard adventure, which is a little bit more rigorous, which includes climbing, trekking, camping, paragliding, and surfing. But there is a third type of adventure called extreme adventure. There's a third type of adventure called extreme adventure, and we're seeing an increase of this, such as shark cave diving, and we're seeing an increase of this in this destination in Mexico. Millennials also are very aware of the impact that their travel experiences have on the planet, and are more likely to choose hotels and resorts that actually promote sustainable tourism. That includes recycling of waste, reuse of materials, and energy conservation. You need to be sure that the hotels and resorts that actually promote that actually engage in sustainable tourism. Additionally, millennials are always connected to their phones, and therefore, there's a new term called mobile photography. And this is part of the daily DNA of millennials. Cell phones are therefore used to document their travels, as opposed to cameras. Hotels, resorts, and tour companies should train employees and tour guides to actually jump in and offer to take these photographs, because they'll see it as just being friendly. But also, if you're a tour company and you're taking, or you're a tour guide, taking people out to cultural sites, make sure that you have specific points at which you have it staged to take photographs. Finally, the millennial generation is prone to add leisure to their business travel. That is, they spend a few days before and after the business trip to enjoy themselves. They don't believe in this adage that, it's work only. Hotels should offer special incentives to entice millennials to do so, to spend some time after and before the business trip. Now to the rise in the travel of women. I grew up in a family of 12 kids. I'm the last of 12 kids. I have 8 sisters. So it's no surprise to me that women have taken over. In the United States, women account, think of this, in the United States, women account for 80% of all consumer spending decisions. Whether it's a car, the guy may buy the car, but it's the lady who decides which car he buys and whether or not he can. And according to Intrepid Travel, 63% of the travelers they book today, 63% of the travelers they book today are women. In fact, the biggest market for travelers today is millennial women between the ages of 25 and 39. And many women are traveling by themselves. You might think regarding safety concerns, and that's not the case. Many women are traveling by themselves. Travel company Trexoff states that in 2014, 72% of American women took a solo trip, and that number is expected to have increased. And according to Gutsy Traveler, an online travel site, when women traveled with other women, 91% of the time, they took their girlfriends, not relatives. I don't know what that means. And ladies and gentlemen, today's women are not interested hardly in going to the spa when they take a vacation. They too are looking for adventurous activities. In fact, according to Adventure Travel News, 53% of the adventure travel that they book is by women, compared to 47% by men. So all that skiing, all that cage shark diving, 53% of the requests are coming from women, only 47% from men. Finally, the Chinese market. As a result of the rising middle class in China and an ease in travel restrictions, a MasterCard report has forecasted an average annual growth of 8.5% in Chinese outbound travel. That's travelers leaving China between 2016 and 2021. So between 2016 and 2021, every year there'll be an increase of 8.5% of Chinese tourists traveling outside of China. And just like everyone else, Chinese travelers are becoming more interested in spending money on exquisite local food, culture, wine, and other unique cultural experiences, rather than on things that you would think they would normally buy, such as jewelry and accessories. They're not buying those things. They're buying instead cultural experiences instead. However, I heard one speaker talking this morning about the importance of Mandarin, and I think the question was asked, does everyone in Mexico have to learn Mandarin? The answer is no. So you can be relieved. However, there is one key thing that Mexico needs to do if it wants to attract the Chinese visitor, and it'll take a while for it to build, because they will tend to go to Europe, the United States first, the developed countries first. But what the Chinese visitor tends to do is tag on an extra trip. If they're going to take that long trip to the United States, they'll also look for tag-ons, like a cruise out of Mexico or a cruise to Mexico. But there's one thing you have to do, and that is all of the marketing material that you're focusing on China, it needs to be in Mandarin. It really needs to be in Mandarin. It can't be in Spanish or in English. You also should need to hire a few Mandarin-speaking people, so that, I lived 12 years in Miami. I used to work as an executive at the airport in Miami. And I lived in Miami, and when I went into Macy's, I often, because my Spanish is not the best, well, my name is Miguel, but my Spanish is not the best. It was not unusual that when you went into a Macy's, the clerk or the person in Macy's would say, "Un momento, por favor," and she went and got an English-speaking person to help you. Now, some people in the United States get upset about that. They say, "This is America. They should talk English." Here's the problem. If you're a business person, you understand why this is happening. In Miami, 65% of the population are Hispanic or Latin. So ideally, you would love to hire someone who speaks both English and Spanish. But if you can't find a person who can do both, who are you going to hire? The one who speaks Spanish, because 65% of your customers speak that. So what I'm saying to you is, if you want to attract the Chinese tourists, your share of that Chinese market, you do have to have in your hotels, you do have to have tour guides, at least one or two, whom, if the visitor wants something translated, you have somebody available, as they do in Macy's. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, if Mexico's travel industry is to continue its successful growth, it must accurately predict and cater to tomorrow's traveler. Tomorrow, that traveler will most likely be a millennial female tourist between the ages of 23 and 40. But additionally, however, Mexico will do well to make every effort to capture its share of a strongly growing Chinese travel market. I thank you for this opportunity to address you this afternoon.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you very much. Don't go, Miguel. Don't go. Le voy a pedir a Hugo de la Reina, presidente Canirac, si es tan amable. Miguel, don't go. Don't go. We want to thank you. Le pido a Hugo, si es tan amable, de agradecerle y de darle un reconocimiento a Miguel por estar con nosotros esta tarde.